Have we been worshipping the wrong God all along? In a world where faith shapes our very existence, what if everything you've been told about God, the creator of the heavens, the earth, the flood, the commandments, was wrong? What if the God worshipped by millions for centuries, the God of the Old Testament, is not who we think he is? Could the deity we call Yahweh, the one who demands fear and obedience, be nothing more than a cosmic impostor, an arrogant false god who has deceived humanity for millennia? This is not just a theory, it's a terrifying revelation hidden for centuries. But now it's coming to light. What if the true God, the one Jesus spoke of, has been overshadowed by a figure of wrath, jealousy, and destruction? Is it possible that we have unknowingly bent the knee to the wrong God? A God who thrives on fear, control, and violence instead of love, mercy, and truth? In this video, we will uncover the hidden secrets that the church tried to bury, the teachings suppressed for over 1,000 years. Through ancient Gnostic texts, forbidden gospels like the Gospel of Judas, and the shocking findings of the Nag Hammadi scrolls, you'll discover how the God worshipped by billions might not be the true creator at all, but a false, blind god known as Samuel, the Demiurge. You'll understand the deeper truths hidden in plain sight within the Bible. How the God of Israel, the one who drowned the world in a flood, who demanded blood sacrifices, who was jealous and vengeful, is in fact a lesser deity, a pretender who claims divinity through ignorance. As we dive deeper into these revelations, you'll find yourself questioning everything you thought you knew about good, evil, and the very nature of the divine. Is the God you worship truly God? Or is he the blind creator, the impostor who has masked his true identity for millennia? Together we will uncover the truth, and you'll see how this knowledge, once hidden, has the power to set you free. Will you challenge everything you've been taught? Or will you continue to serve the false god, blind to the truth that has been right in front of us all along? Keep watching, and let's dive into the ultimate question. Who are we really worshipping? Yaldabaoth, the Demiurge. Who is this cosmic impostor? Imagine for a moment a world created by a god who is blind to the truth, a god who, in its arrogance, declares itself the almighty creator, but is unaware of a greater power that exists above it. This is the terrifying reality of Yaldabaoth, the Demiurge, a being that many ancient Gnostic texts claim is the true creator of the physical world. And this is the very God that millions have worshipped for centuries under the name Yahweh. In the Gnostic view, Yaldabaoth is not the true God that Jesus spoke of, the God of love, light, and mercy, but rather a false deity, a cruel, ignorant force that traps human souls in a world of suffering. This false God, in his arrogance, declares, "I am the Lord, and there is no other God beside me." These words sound eerily familiar, don't they? They are the same words attributed to Yahweh in the Bible. But in the eyes of the Gnostics, these words are not those of a supreme being, but the boast of an arrogant, deluded pretender. The concept of the Demiurge is deeply unsettling. Yaldabaoth, a lion-faced serpent, is a being of contradictions, a being born from a mistake, an entity whose creation is an accident, a flawed being trying to imitate perfection. In the Gnostic texts, he is described as a creature with the body of a serpent and the head of a lion. His form is not beautiful or pure, it is grotesque, a mockery of true divinity. Yaldabaoth's creation of the material world is not out of love or goodness, but out of a desire to control. He traps human souls in this physical realm, preventing them from reaching the higher, spiritual truth that lies beyond. The world he creates is one of suffering, imperfection, and pain. A world where humans are born into a cycle of struggle and death. This world is not the paradise of divine creation. It is a prison that we have been taught to worship and call home. In the story of Genesis, Yahweh, or the Demiurge, forbids Adam and Eve from eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Why would a loving, benevolent God deny his creation the very thing that could bring them wisdom, enlightenment, and freedom? To the Gnostics, this act was not a test of obedience, but an act of oppression. The tree of knowledge represented the path to spiritual awakening, the path to understanding the true God, the God of love, who is beyond this material world. And so, Yahweh casts Adam and Eve out of Eden, punishing them for seeking knowledge and enlightenment. This act is not the work of a loving father, but the work of a tyrant, a ruler who fears the very thing that could free his creation: awareness, wisdom, truth. In the Gnostic worldview, the serpent in the Garden of Eden is not the devil, as traditional Christian teachings suggest, but a liberator, an agent sent to guide Adam and Eve toward the true God. It was the serpent that encouraged them to seek the knowledge that would set them free, while the Demiurge sought to keep them ignorant and enslaved. The true God of love was not the God of the garden, but the God who exists beyond this physical world, beyond the reach of Yaldabaoth's tyranny. This ancient understanding challenges everything we've been taught about good and evil. The God who created this world, who drowned the world in the flood, who demanded sacrifices and obedience, may not be the ultimate divine power we've believed him to be. Instead, he may be a flawed, blind God, a lesser deity who has misled humanity into worshipping him as the creator. The question we must ask ourselves is, are we still worshipping this false God today? When we bow our heads in prayer, are we praying to the true God, the God of love, or are we bowing to the God of fear, violence, and control? This is the question that the Gnostics dared to ask, and it is the question that we must confront today. The hidden truth in ancient texts: how the Church suppressed the knowledge. The history of the Christian Church is marked by a series of power struggles not only over political control, but over the very nature of God. From the moment Christianity gained power, the Church's leaders began to suppress alternative teachings that threatened their authority. The Gnostic Gospels, texts that offered a radically different view of God, were buried, condemned as heretical, and destroyed. Why? Because these texts exposed the truth. The God worshipped by the masses was not the true God, but a false deity, Yaldabaoth, the Demiurge. One of the most significant discoveries in modern times was the unearthing of the Nag Hammadi Library in 1945. These ancient texts, hidden for over 1,000 years, contain the lost teachings of the Gnostics, teachings that challenge the foundation of Orthodox Christianity. Among these texts is the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Judas, and the secret book of John. These Gospels reveal a God who is not the vengeful Yahweh of the Old Testament, but a loving, benevolent creator who transcends this material world. The Gospel of Judas, in particular, is a powerful revelation. It depicts Judas Iscariot not as a betrayer, but as a key figure in the divine plan, one who understands the true nature of God and is chosen to play his part in the cosmic drama. In this gospel, Jesus himself reveals to Judas that the disciples are worshipping the wrong God, that the God they pray to is not his father, but the Demiurge, Yaldabaoth. This revelation is a bombshell, shaking the very foundations of Christian orthodoxy. But this knowledge was too dangerous for the early church. The church's leaders, concerned with maintaining their power, moved swiftly to eliminate these texts, to silence those who dared to question the true nature of God. They burned books, excommunicated heretics, and declared these teachings to be blasphemous. The church's authority depended on the idea that Yahweh was the one true God, and any challenge to that idea was a threat to their control. Yet, despite their efforts to suppress the truth, the Gnostic teachings survived. The discovery of the Nag Hammadi texts along with the later recovery of the Gospel of Judas, has brought these ancient truths back into the light. And as these texts are translated and studied, the world is waking up to a startling realization. The God we have worshipped for centuries may not be the true creator at all, but a false God. A God who has misled humanity into worshipping him through fear and manipulation. This is a revelation that is both liberating and frightening. It challenges everything we have been taught about God, about sin, about salvation. It forces us to ask difficult questions. What if the God we've been worshipping is not the true God? What if we've been led astray by a cosmic impostor? The true God of love, Jesus, and the liberation from the Demiurge. In contrast to the false God of the Old Testament, the God that Jesus spoke of was radically different. The true God, the God of love, mercy, and truth, does not demand sacrifices, does not seek obedience through fear, and does not rule through violence and destruction. The God that Jesus revealed is a God who is beyond this world, a God who offers freedom, enlightenment, and eternal life. In the Gnostic tradition, Jesus is not merely the Son of God. He is the divine messenger sent to free humanity from the tyranny of the Demiurge. He comes to reveal the truth about the nature of God and to show us the path to spiritual awakening. Jesus' teachings are not about obedience to a wrathful God, but about liberation from the false world created by the Demiurge. He speaks of a God who is love, who is light, who is truth. This God does not punish or destroy, but heals and restores. In the Gnostic texts, Jesus is depicted as one who comes to awaken the divine spark within us, to show us that we are not trapped in this material world, but a part of a greater spiritual reality. Through his teachings, Jesus reveals that the true God is not the God of fear and suffering, but the God of peace, joy, and love. The message of Jesus is one of liberation. He came to show us that we are not slaves to a false God, but children of the true Creator. He came to free us from the cycle of death and rebirth, to show us that we can transcend this world of suffering and return to the divine realm of love and light. But this message was suppressed by the church. The true teachings of Jesus were hidden, distorted, and buried beneath layers of dogma and control. The church, which had become the earthly representative of the Demiurge, sought to keep humanity in darkness, to prevent us from realizing the truth about the true God. But now, the truth is being revealed. As the Gnostic texts resurface, as we uncover the hidden knowledge of the ancients, we are beginning to see the true God once again. The God of love, the God of mercy, the God who is beyond this world and beyond all fear. And this, my friends, is the true liberation. It is the liberation from the false god of fear, the liberation from the chains of ignorance, the liberation from the prison of this material world. It is the awakening to the truth of who we truly are, and the realization that we are not slaves to a cosmic tyrant, but children of a loving divine Creator. This is the true message of Jesus, the message that has been hidden for so long. And now, as we uncover this truth, we are called to live it, to live in the light of love, to embrace the true God, and to awaken to the divine within ourselves. This is the path to spiritual freedom, the path to salvation, the path to true enlightenment. The Church's war on heresy, how the truth was buried. In the early days of Christianity, the question of who God truly was one of immense significance. The truth, as we are beginning to discover, has been hidden in the shadows of history, suppressed by the very institution that was supposed to lead people toward salvation. The Gnostics, who saw the creator of the Old Testament as a false god, a demiurge, were not only marginalized but hunted down. They were seen as a threat to the burgeoning power of the Christian Church, which had consolidated its authority around the belief that Yahweh was the one true God. The Church's leaders, clad in robes of power and control, sought to erase any doctrine that threatened their version of the divine. It is a story of silencing the voices of those who dared to ask uncomfortable questions, those who dared to read the forbidden texts, and those who dared to proclaim that the God worshipped by millions was not the true creator. The Gnostics believed that humanity had been misled, that the true God was a God of love and light, not wrath and violence. But the emerging power of the Church could not allow such teachings to flourish. They branded the Gnostics as heretics, men and women who dared to seek enlightenment outside the accepted doctrine. Their writings, filled with the revelation of the true God, were destroyed. The Gnostic Gospels, including the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Judas, and the secret book of John, were burned, and the people who carried these messages were hunted down. Their ideas, considered dangerous and subversive, were buried beneath the weight of history, hidden away from the eyes of those who sought to understand the true nature of God. Why did the Church go to such lengths to suppress these teachings? It was not simply about theological disagreement. It was about control. The God of the Old Testament, the Demiurge, rules through fear and obedience, and that is how the early Church sought to rule as well. The truth about God, as revealed by the Gnostics, threatened the very foundation upon which the Church built its empire. If Yahweh was not the true God, then the entire structure of faith and power upon which the Church relied would collapse. The Church's war on heresy was not just about protecting doctrine. It was about maintaining power. But despite the Church's efforts, the truth could not be completely erased. The Gnostic texts that were hidden away in the desert, sealed in jars, survived. These ancient scriptures, containing the knowledge of the true God, were rediscovered in the modern era, offering us a glimpse into the wisdom that was once lost. The truth of who God truly is, the God of love, the God of light, the God who transcends this world, was hidden for centuries. But now it is being revealed again. As we uncover these texts, we are called to reflect on the immense cost of suppressing the truth. How many generations were led astray, worshipping a false god? How many souls were kept in darkness because the Church feared what might happen if the true nature of God were revealed? The recovery of the Gnostic texts is a triumph for humanity, a triumph that allows us to question what we have been told and to seek the truth for ourselves. It is a call to reclaim the freedom that was taken from us, to reclaim the knowledge that was buried, and to understand who God truly is. The Gospel of Judas, a revelation of the true God. Among the many Gnostic texts that were suppressed by the Church, perhaps none is more provocative and transformative than the Gospel of Judas. This ancient text, discovered in the 1970s, provides a startling reinterpretation of the relationship between Jesus and Judas. In this Gospel, Judas Iscariot is not the betrayer, but rather the one who understands the truth. He is not the villain in the story of Jesus' death, but the one who plays a key role in the divine plan of liberation. In the Gospel of Judas, Jesus confides in Judas, revealing to him the secrets of the universe, the true nature of God and the false God that has deceived humanity. Jesus tells Judas that the God worshipped by the disciples and by the Church is not the true God at all, but the Demiurge, Yaldabaoth. This God, whom we have been taught to revere, is a blind, arrogant deity who has trapped human souls in the material world. The true God, according to the Gospel of Judas, is a God of light and love, a God who exists beyond this world, beyond the reach of the Demiurge. Jesus tells Judas that his betrayal is part of the divine plan, a plan to free humanity from the grasp of the false god. Judas is not acting out of malice. He is acting in accordance with the will of the true God, fulfilling his role as the one who will bring about the liberation of the human soul. Judas's actions, then, are not those of a traitor, but of a servant of the true God, carrying out the task assigned to him by Jesus. The Gospel of Judas offers a radically different view of the events of Jesus' crucifixion. In this Gospel, Jesus is not dying to appease the wrath of the false god, but to expose the power of the Demiurge and free humanity from its grasp. Jesus' death is not a sacrifice to an angry God, but a triumph over the false god who has held humanity captive. It is a message of liberation, a message of hope for all who seek the truth. The implications of this gospel are profound. If the God we have worshipped for centuries is not the true God, but a false deity, then what does that mean for our understanding of salvation, of sin, of life after death? The Gospel of Judas forces us to confront the uncomfortable reality that everything we have been taught about God may be wrong. It challenges us to question the very nature of the God we have believed in and to seek the truth for ourselves. As we reflect on the Gospel of Judas, we are reminded that the path to enlightenment is not always easy. Sometimes the truth is hidden in places we least expect it. But as we uncover the wisdom of the Gnostics and other ancient texts, we are reminded that the true God is not a God of fear and punishment, but a God of love and light. This is the message that Jesus came to reveal, and this is the message that the Gospel of Judas invites us to embrace. The true God of love, a revelation beyond the Demiurge. As we delve deeper into the revelations of the Gnostics and the hidden Gospels, one truth becomes abundantly clear. The true God is not the God of the Old Testament, the God who demands sacrifices, the God who drowns the world in a flood, the God who instills fear and obedience in his followers. The true God is not a God who rules by power and violence. The true God is a God of love, a God of light, a God who desires to free us from the chains of this material world and lead us to the higher spiritual reality. This God of love is not distant or unknowable. He is a God who is intimately connected with each one of us, a God who dwells within our hearts and minds, guiding us toward the truth. The true God does not require sacrifices or rituals to earn his favor. He does not seek to control or dominate us. Instead, he calls us to love one another, to live in peace, to seek the truth, and to awaken to the divine light within ourselves. The message of the true God is a message of liberation. It is a message that frees us from the fear and guilt imposed by the Demiurge and leads us to a deeper understanding of who we are and what we are capable of. The true God calls us to transcend the limitations of the material world and to awaken to our true nature, which is divine. This is the message that Jesus came to reveal. Jesus spoke of a God who is love, a God who is merciful and compassionate, a God who offers forgiveness and healing. Jesus' teachings are not about obeying a cruel God, but about embracing the love of the true God and living in harmony with that love. His death was not a sacrifice to appease a wrathful God, but a triumph over the forces of darkness that have held humanity in bondage. In the Gnostic tradition, Jesus is seen as a divine messenger, sent to reveal the truth about the nature of God and to awaken humanity to the divine light within. He is not just the Son of God, he is the embodiment of the true God, the God of love and light. Through his teachings, through his life, and through his death, Jesus shows us the way to spiritual liberation and enlightenment. As we reflect on the true nature of God, we are called to embrace this God of love and light. We are called to reject the false god of fear and control, and to seek the truth that lies beyond the material world. The true God does not demand our worship out of fear. He invites us to awaken to the divine within ourselves and to live in harmony with the love that he offers. This is the path of spiritual awakening, the path of liberation, the path of true salvation. It is a path that leads us beyond the illusion of this world and into the light of the true God. And as we walk this path, we are reminded that the true God is not a God of wrath or punishment, but a God of love and mercy, a God who desires only our freedom and our happiness. The question we must ask ourselves is, will we continue to worship a false God, a God who has enslaved us for so long, or will we awaken to the true God, the God of love, who offers us the freedom to live as we were meant to live? This is the choice that lies before us, and it is a choice that will shape the rest of our spiritual journey. The flood, a divine rescue or a malicious act? The story of the flood in the Old Testament is one of the most powerful and unsettling narratives in religious history. It's a tale of divine wrath, a God who, in his anger, floods the earth, drowning all but Noah and his family. This cataclysmic event is often portrayed as a necessary cleansing of humanity, a way to rid the world of its sinfulness and corruption. But when viewed through the lens of Gnostic teachings, the flood becomes a far more troubling and perplexing event, one that raises profound questions about the nature of the God who commanded it. The Gnostics, who viewed the God of the Old Testament as the Demiurge, an ignorant and arrogant deity, saw the flood not as an act of divine justice, but as a cruel and unnecessary display of power. According to Gnostic belief, the Demiurge, in his blind pride, sought to punish humanity for failing to worship him properly. The flood, in this view, is not a benevolent act of mercy, but a violent, oppressive response to human failure. The true God, the God of love, would not drown his creation to correct a mistake. This God, the Demiurge, rules through fear, and his actions are those of a tyrant who punishes without compassion. In the Gnostic interpretation, the flood becomes a symbol of humanity's struggle against this false God. It is not just an event in history, but a cosmic struggle, a fight for the freedom of the soul. The floodwaters, in this sense, represent the oppressive forces of the Demiurge that seek to drown the light of truth and enlightenment. But even in the midst of this destruction, there is a glimmer of hope. Noah and his family survive, not because of the mercy of the false God, but because they are saved by a higher power, by the true God who sees beyond the darkness and chaos of the material world. This interpretation challenges the traditional view of the flood as a righteous act of divine retribution. It forces us to reconsider the nature of God and the way we understand his actions in the world. If the flood was not an act of mercy but of control and punishment, then it begs the question, is this the God we truly want to worship? The story of the flood, when viewed through the lens of Gnostic teachings, becomes a powerful symbol of liberation, a reminder that the true God is not the God of fear and destruction, but the God of love and freedom. The flood, in this sense, becomes a metaphor for the soul's journey towards spiritual awakening, a journey that often requires breaking free from the constraints of the false God, the Demiurge, and embracing the true God of love. As we reflect on this narrative, we must ask ourselves, are we still trapped in the waters of the Demiurge, bound by fear, suffering, and control? Or are we willing to seek the true God, the God who offers us freedom, enlightenment, and unconditional love? The serpent, a savior or a deceiver. One of the most perplexing and controversial figures in the Bible is the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Traditionally, the serpent is portrayed as the tempter, the evil one who leads Adam and Eve astray by convincing them to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The serpent is often seen as a symbol of Satan, the adversary, the embodiment of all that is evil. But in the Gnostic tradition, the serpent is not the villain, it is the hero. According to the Gnostic texts, the serpent is a divine messenger, sent by the true God to liberate humanity from the tyranny of the Demiurge. The true God, the God of love and light, does not want humanity to remain in ignorance. He does not want Adam and Eve or anyone else to be trapped in a world of darkness and deception. The serpent, then, is not the tempter but the liberator. It is through the serpent that humanity is given the gift of knowledge, the knowledge that can lead them to freedom. This interpretation of the serpent challenges the traditional Christian view of the fall of man. In the traditional narrative, the serpent's temptation leads to the expulsion of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden and the introduction of sin into the world. But in the Gnostic view, the serpent's actions are not sinful but salvific. The serpent is acting in accordance with the will of the true God, helping humanity break free from the chains of ignorance imposed by the Demiurge. In the secret book of John, a key Gnostic text, the serpent is described as an agent of Sophia, the divine wisdom, who acts to awaken humanity to the true nature of God. The serpent's encouragement to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge is not a rebellious act, but a divine act of mercy. The tree of knowledge represents the path to spiritual awakening, the path to understanding the true God. By eating the fruit, Adam and Eve are not sinning, but are beginning their journey toward enlightenment. This radical reinterpretation of the serpent's role in the Garden of Eden invites us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about good and evil. If the serpent is not evil but a savior, then what does that say about the God who condemns the serpent and punishes Adam and Eve? The God of the Old Testament, Yahweh, is depicted as a jealous, vengeful God who punishes Adam and Eve for seeking knowledge. But the Gnostics would argue that this God is not the true God. The true God is not a God who seeks to keep humanity in ignorance, but a God who desires to liberate us, to help us awaken to the divine truth that lies within us all. The serpent's role as a liberator is a powerful symbol of the spiritual journey. It represents the awakening of the soul, the breaking free from the chains of the material world, and the pursuit of knowledge that leads to spiritual enlightenment. The serpent's actions are a reminder that the true path to God is not through blind obedience, but through the pursuit of truth, wisdom, and self-awareness. In this light, the serpent becomes a symbol of hope, a beacon of light in a world of darkness. It reminds us that the true God does not want us to remain in ignorance, but calls us to seek the truth, to question the false teachings that have been imposed upon us, and to awaken to the divine light that exists within us all. The serpent is not the enemy, it is the guide, the teacher, the savior who shows us the way. As we reflect on this interpretation, we must ask ourselves, are we still afraid of the serpent, the symbol of knowledge and enlightenment, or are we ready to embrace the truth that it offers? The path to spiritual freedom is not always easy, and it often requires us to question everything we have been taught. But as we journey toward the truth, we are reminded that the true God is not a God of fear, but a God of love, light, and liberation. The serpent, in this sense, is not our enemy, but our ally, a divine messenger who helps us find our way back to the truth. As we stand on the precipice of a great revelation, it's hard not to feel the weight of what we've just uncovered, the truth that has been veiled for so long, hidden beneath layers of history, doctrine, and tradition. The path we've walked together today has not been an easy one. It's a journey that forces us to confront the uncomfortable, to question the very foundations of what we've been taught, and to challenge the beliefs we hold dear. But in doing so, we open ourselves to something much greater, a truth that has the power to heal, to liberate, and to transform. We've explored the idea that the God we've worshipped for centuries might not be the true creator after all, that the God of wrath, the God who demanded sacrifice and obedience, the God who created a world filled with pain and suffering, might not be the God of love and light that Jesus spoke of. Instead, we've come to understand that the true God, the God of love, peace, and liberation, is beyond this material world, beyond the constraints of fear and violence. This is the God who calls us to awaken to the divine light within us, the God who beckons us towards spiritual freedom, not through blind obedience, but through the pursuit of truth, wisdom, and self-awareness. But the story does not end here. The discovery of this truth is only the beginning. It is a call to action, a call to awaken from the slumber of false beliefs and to embrace the light of the true God. It is a challenge to question the narrative we've been told, to seek the truth for ourselves, and to embrace a deeper, more intimate relationship with the divine. This truth does not come with fear or judgment. It comes with love and compassion, a love that transcends the boundaries of religion and speaks directly to the soul. As we embark on this journey of spiritual awakening, we are reminded that we are not alone. We are surrounded by a community of seekers, people just like you and me, who are longing for the truth, who are searching for a deeper connection with the divine. And together we can support one another on this path. Together, we can lift each other up, share in the discovery of the true God, and help one another break free from the chains of fear and ignorance. If this video has touched your soul, if it has brought a spark of light into your life, I invite you to support this journey. Your energy, your encouragement, and your support are what make it possible for me to continue sharing these truths. Every like, every comment, every act of kindness is a reminder that we are all in this together. Your support means more than words can express. It is the fuel that drives this mission forward, and I am truly grateful for it. As we move forward in this shared journey, I encourage you to leave a comment, share your thoughts, and reflect on what we've discussed today. Let's create a space where we can dialogue openly, without judgment, and explore the deeper mysteries of the divine. What are your thoughts on the God we worship? Have you ever questioned the teachings you've been given? Share your insights, your challenges, and your hopes for spiritual freedom. Together, we can build a community of truth seekers, a community that honors the divine within each of us. And if you feel called to, please consider subscribing to this channel. By subscribing, you become part of a movement, one that seeks to awaken the world to the true God of love, peace, and light. Every subscription, every share, every moment of engagement brings us closer to that goal, to the vision of a world where we are no longer bound by fear, where we are free to embrace the light of the true God. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for your time, your energy, and your willingness to explore these truths with me. Every single one of you is a part of this journey, and I am deeply grateful for your presence. Together, we can make a difference, one heart at a time, as we seek the truth, embrace the light, and live in the love of the true God. So, as we continue to search for the divine, to uncover the truth, and to awaken to the love that resides within us, let us remember that we are not just seekers. We are also the ones who bring the light into the world, and that light, once discovered, cannot be hidden. It will shine brightly, illuminating the path for all who are willing to follow it. Let's walk this path together, hand in hand, as we seek the truth, embrace the love of the true God, and live our lives in alignment with the divine light within us.